Hey everyone, Chris here with another filler video, this time focusing on a modern game currently in early access on Steam called Slime Rancher. Being developed by Monomi Park, an indie development team made up of people who've worked on other well-known projects before, such as Spiral Knights. My first reaction when I saw this game on Steam was that it looked adorable, as I've got quite the soft spot for cute things, but as I was watching the trailer, I couldn't help but feel like this didn't seem like a typical early access game. And then I looked at the version number and it was only version 0.3.2. Well, back when I bought it, it's up to 0.3.3 at the time of this recording. But the thing is, despite the high price point, I decided to pick it up and, well, this is actually a great game for me to talk about because, no, it's not worth its high asking price yet, but it's extremely well programmed and has so much more content and features on the way, I feel the price will be worth it in the long run once the game is finished. Though I'll bet some of you are wondering how in the world I can tell the quality of the code without actually having seen any of it. Well, before I get into the technical details, let's briefly talk about what this game's about. You basically play the role of a character known as Beatrix LeBeau, who's inherited a ranch in a world known as the Far Far Range, about 1,000 light years or so from Earth. And the goal is to basically make lots and lots of money in the plort market by herding slimes. The way this works is you make a corral to hold slimes in, suck up some slimes from out in the world using your vac pack, drop them off into the corral, then feed them a diet of food that they like. Each time a slime eats something, they plop out a plort, which you can then pick up and sell on the plort market. As you gain cash, you can spend it on more things such as more corrals, chicken coops, gardens, ponds, or even upgrades for these things, as well as upgrades for your own equipment, including a better stats for your health, better stats for your energy, a jetpack, water function for your vac pack, and there's even more than those. Now, there is a trick to all of this, of course. There's many kinds of slimes, and they occasionally try munching down on the plorts of other slimes. If this happens, the slime grows much bigger and becomes a hybrid of the two slime species known as a largo. Largos are much trickier to corral, but they produce twice as many plorts as regular slimes, so if you do it right, you can really earn a ton of cash from corralling them. But if a largo attempts to eat another plort from a third species of slime, it mutates into a horrible abomination known as the tar, which will go around and just create massive havoc everywhere. Largos are far less likely to become tars during the day than they are at night, though I personally think it should be prevented completely during daylight, because even with the reduced chance, it still happens way too often during the day to really enjoy the scenery. But yeah, as it stands, that's basically how the game goes. Corral slimes, feed them, sell plorts, repeat. There is a bunch of exploration to do in the world too, as this is how you'll find new areas with new kinds of slimes, not to mention new kinds of resources which your slimes may prefer as a food source, since if you feed a slime its most favorite food of all, it'll produce double plorts. And I believe they will stay satiated longer, though I'm not 100% certain on that point. Suffice to say, slimes will get a bit restless and aggressive if you don't treat them well, and will start to try and find ways to escape their enclosures, such as by stacking on top of each other to tower over the walls to your corrals. There are upgrades you can put in place to help prevent this from happening, but no upgrades are 100% foolproof, so you always gotta keep your slimes well fed. Now, there's still tons of features missing from this game, and plenty of dead ends which still need new areas attached to them, but as I said at the start, this game is extremely well programmed, so let's go into the details of how I can actually tell. Firstly, this game auto-detects your desktop resolution on startup and sets the screen size accordingly. Believe it or not, there's AAA titles out there which fail to do this, and this can be the first sign in regards to just how competent the coders for a game truly are, given that this is one of the easiest things you could code into anything. Okay, yeah, sometimes internet personalities joke about things taking only 2 or 3 lines of code when they would actually take more like 200 or 300, but here's the C code for getting the resolution of the desktop in Windows. The first line declares a variable, which I've arbitrarily named RC, which stores a Windows rectangle object, and the second line calls a command which returns a handle to the window which represents the desktop, and pulls the rectangle data for it and stores it in the rectangle variable we created. That's it. That's all it takes to figure out what the desktop resolution is. Now, subprogrammers may argue that this doesn't work so well when dealing with multiple monitors, so yeah, it's always good to have a fallback in case attempting to create a full screen display in this manner fails. But when a game doesn't even attempt to do this, there's just no good reason why not, other than a lazy and or inexperienced programmer. The second way I can tell the game is well coded is simply because of this. This pixelizing effect is really freaking cool, and it can be seen on all digital monitor surfaces in this game when you get close enough. Little touches like this are found throughout the game. For instance, another such effect can be seen when you look through the radiation field produced by a rad slime, as everything on the other side is offset very slightly, as though you were looking through a piece of glass. Another way I can tell how well the game's coded is that once you're in the game proper, there's no loading times. Ever. The entire world is seamlessly loaded in and out as you travel around, even when you start breaking the boundaries of what's possible by jetpacking to surfaces you technically shouldn't be able to reach. Because yes, you can do that. And yes, there are things to find by doing that. Heck, you can even reach that island way out in the distance there if you do it right while fully upgraded. Though it's still under construction, so getting back without falling in the ocean and getting knocked out can be an interesting prospect. Lastly, the game hasn't crashed on me, at all. Not even while alt-tabbing. In fact, the only bug I've encountered is losing all of my phosphorus slimes if they're not solar shielded, yet in a dark environment like a cave, which shouldn't have any sunlight anyways. Though the game has a built-in ability to report bugs anytime you need to, even when in the middle of playing, which is another way you can tell that the game's coded well. My only major complaint at this point is that it's not yet worth its rather steep asking price. But that's also why I bought into it as early access, because it not only appeals to me, but also because there's some serious passion here towards building an outstanding game. I can't wait to see what new features and everything are planned down the road. So that's all I wanted to say about this thing. For anyone who has an interest in this game, you can purchase it on Steam for $20, and you'll find a link in the video description for this video on YouTube. Anywho, hope you all enjoyed this filler, and as for the next episode of Ancient DOS Games, episode 191, coming out on Saturday, July 2nd, I'll be covering a strategy game with a heavy focus on magic. If you know which game that could be, then be sure to send your guess to adg@pixelships.com and stay tuned as there's plenty more DOS games to get to.